Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley.
And today we are joined by mystical coach of oneness, Christie Cunneyworth, everybody.
Hey, Christie.
Hello.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
Christie. Welcome back.
Happy to be here.
This is a topic that I think that you're the best person to speak about it because you work in what we like to call the Sickcare system. It used to be the healthcare system until we realized there's a lot of corruption and there is a lot of things that happen in that system that don't serve the people. And so as someone that works, you're a nurse, right? I'd love for you to dive into why you chose this topic for this podcast episode today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my journey with healthcare started really young. I mean, I always was really interested in empowering and healing myself and was super intrigued with what healthcare was. So I followed my heart to a kinesiology degree and then went into nursing after that. And at that time, when I was in my teens, I truly thought that our healthcare system was just created to help people. Health care, promoting health and caring about people. And I so quickly realized it was like getting slapped in the face, like looking around and starting to really recognize, especially as a sensitive empath, what the system really was. And as I've continued with my career in healthcare, as well as my own personal journey in my health and healing, it's just become so clear how broken this system really is and what it's actually doing to the population, which at its core, it's keeping us sick. So we have a healthcare system that has the misnomer and it's confused brainwashing in making us think that it actually heals and helps people caring about our health, when in actuality it's a strategic system focused on making money and keeping people sick. It's just, I truly can't even comprehend that this is the level of functioning of our system. But really, you look around the patriarchy and the way our whole system functions and makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a huge awakening, right? I'm sure that you experience awakening to the truth of what the healthcare system really is, which I see across the board when people start awakening to that. I mean, it's a very jarring experience. You put your trust in there. You look to the system and go, well, you care about me. My well-being is at the forefront. And then you realize, like, no, it's not. There's a million other agendas underneath, which is the same theme across the board for any system we can look at and dissect. But when I started understanding that they're not here to make sure that we're okay or that we're better or that we remain out of it, and that it's just pumped with trying to make money and all of these things. I mean, in America, me and Danny, we don't have health insurance because it costs so much money. I was being charged $400 for a month and I was like, there's no way in hell that I can afford that and live my life out here in San Diego. And so I'd love for you to go into what that awakening was like for you when you started to really see through all the bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was pretty jarring, with the science background, having 2 science degrees. It was really in the evidence-based research that I was starting to realize that this evidence, this science, there's a lot of flaws, there's a lot of biases, there's a lot of conclusions that we've come to that if you're looking at it with a certain eye, a certain non-biased kind of curious lens, you can see through it pretty quickly. And it's the same thing in healthcare as well. Like in nursing school, we were being taught certain ways of doing things that to my brain, to my mind, truly just didn't even make sense. Pharmacology, pushing drugs, And it was really just this slow process of really starting to see everything through this different lens. And I feel I've seen the world through a different lens my whole life. So getting into healthcare and then seeing things from this different perspective was always my case. And in nursing school, the collective brainwashing was you want to finish nursing school, get a full-time job, you're in a line forever, and you're so lucky. And I ended up choosing to work casually and jump from different faculties. I work emergency, ICU, and mental health, and I work in a variety of different hospitals, which was another opportunity of me not getting sucked into the toxicity, not being pulled into one type of functioning because I was seeing the different levels of functioning of the various institutions I was working at. So all of that was just allowing me to start to get kind of an observer, objective perspective of what I was actually seeing. And same thing working the COVID pandemic front lines. I worked in emergency as well as ICU. You could just really see very clearly because of my background, having this mystical coaching, or I guess I didn't have it then, having my background of self-awareness at that point. I was able to see through a lot of the brainwashing that most of my colleagues were just oblivious to. Like it wasn't something that was able to even be talked about during the pandemic, and you got pretty shunned pretty quickly if you were bringing up some of these things that we were starting to see and notice. And it's 5 years later now, and the conversation is starting to be a little bit more open-minded. People are starting to understand that 5 years ago there was a level of fear-mongering and control and manipulation with respect to the COVID pandemic within the healthcare system, but there's still not a full acknowledgement or ownership or recognition at how broken it really is.
And so most of the work you said was you did like emergency response, or that's like the line of work that you're in?
I'm an emergency nurse. So,
Emergency nurse.
yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
No, so we're the first line of defense when people come in their medical emergencies, having the worst day of their life. We are the ones that we work with those people. And it's just really interesting to see the way that we work with them as well, right?
I would love to get into like what you mean by that. And like the way I've seen, like, we're talking about the Sickcare system here.
Mhm.
For the West, obviously, Christie grew up in Canada, myself in the UK, Ellie in United States. Like, it's all westernized countries, right? And so they all kind of fall into the same kind of category in the way that we do healthcare. Obviously, slightly different in the way that things are paid for and whatnot, but the approach to healthcare is obviously very similar across the board. And from what I experienced growing up, emergency response trauma, we call it the I can't remember what it's called now, the emergency room in the UK. Like, that's beautiful, and the way that they take care of patients is great. Like, oh, you lost a limb here, you're in a car accident, but then somewhere along the line, as soon as it comes to like long-term health care, like the ball gets dropped, or there is a complete misunderstanding of what true health is. And then like, it's like, well, why your answer to me is to just continuously take this pill or to do this thing, like in this environment that doesn't actually foster any kind of health or well-being, this clinical white surgical place. So what is it like for you being in like the emergency side of things, and then obviously having the lens that you do?
Yeah. I'll start off by saying that I've spent many, many years with this level of awareness resisting and fighting the system that I'm working in. And that created for a really difficult work environment because I was projecting judgment, projecting separation, projecting inequality in every single moment of my experience. And that created really uncomfortable 12-hour shifts. I would come home so drained, so exhausted, and I didn't really recognize at that point what I was doing to myself. Excuse me. So ultimately, in emergency medicine, we're the first line of defense, and we are so good at what we do. Trauma medicine, saving lives, saving people from imminent death. We're really good at it. And you just nailed it. It's when it comes down to prevention and promoting health on a deeper level, understanding why we get sick in the first place is where we really lack functioning. We're still living on a level of contagion and fear that we can get sick from everything else around us, that we are at the mercy of being in the presence of someone else's illness, and that is what causes us to get sick, even though there's a lot of research to show that virology has never actually been proven at all. And it's on these premises that just makes it a really interesting place to work. Because like right now in healthcare, we've just been mandated again to wear masks, willy-nilly. So it's effective immediately. As of a couple days ago, we are
Why?
mandated to wear masks.
Why?
They call it respiratory season. And so from my perspective, people get sick in the winter, in the darker days of the year, because it's when we are being called to go inward, we're confronting our shadows, and then as our energetic bodies elevate, our physical densities need to level up and entrain to the energetics that we've just heightened to. And so lots of people are getting sick at these days. And yet our reactive healthcare system wants people to wear masks so that we are not contagious in these illnesses that we're getting, so that we can't pass them on to other people. Ultimately, so that staff members don't call in sick, and so that we're not passing on these illnesses. So it just feels like a very different reality, truthfully, a different timeline.
Oh, man. The resistance that you started to feel when you're in that system and you're awakened, you can see through so much shit. And all the judgment, the programs that you're running. I can relate to this because, I was in Hollywood for such a long time. And then when I started awakening and I started to see, whoa, this is not what I thought it was. And I still work in that environment. I created a lot of suffering for myself because I was running so many programs, right? Judgment, superiority, like, do you guys even know what you're talking about? This is so low and all these things. And then I had to move through that to see, like, I'm creating that uncomfort, right? I'm creating all of these things, which in reality, was I even at a higher level of frequency if I'm running all those programs, right? I'm not. And so working through that and then getting to this place where I was like, okay, it is what it is. And if I still have to be here, how do I not create this entire experience as the whole thing of suffering for me? How do I experience this in a way where I can elevate and grow? And so I know that you're still working shifts. I know you're still in the battlefield. So how is that, all the resistance in the programs that you run? Like, I know that you've been healing actively a lot of that.
Yeah, there's been a massive transformation, and I'm so grateful because it's feeling like the first time in my 10-year career that I can go to work, see the beauty of what people are doing. The people on the front lines. There's a lot of unique characteristics that make people able to support and help people in need, right? And a lot of my colleagues are wonderful people. And even though there are levels to, a broken system, toxicity, and those aspects, there is also still a lot of support and beauty. And we do support patients in their times of stress as well. So my transformation has been profound, and it's been a massive awakening in recognizing and being able to do this work while I work in that system. So every little trigger, even as a hypersensitive empath, like the beeping, the bright lights, the noises, the frequency of clients and patients that are coming in, There's so much going on, and being able to drop into my heart in these moments over the course of the day, as I become more proficient at this work, it can be as easy as a couple moments before I can be grounded and centered and then go back to work. And it's really changing my perspective. So when I started waking up to all of this, of course, I ran a lot of programs that only allowed me to see the negative and the darkness and the ugly. And I fought and resisted the system. I wanted to change it so badly, and I didn't know how. And because I was coming from these broken programs, of course, the way that I would speak out would not be received very well because of it. And I'm still working through this. I can feel even in this podcast speaking about this, my face is red. I'm feeling very uncomfortable, and I can see that this is another level of my healing to go through. But I am noticing in the hospital system, like I'm going to work, enjoying my day, having really great interactions, and most of all, being able to show up for patients in a different way. So in the triage room, when I'm working with people, I'm able to explain what we're doing, explain what our healthcare system, how it works, and what we can offer. And then I can also support a different perspective for the people who appear to be open to that. And so I can read their energies a little bit, and the people who are looking for different levels of depth of healing or learning to go a little deeper into the root causes of their healings. I've been able to really support people with heart conditions, major incidences in the emergency department where they're being told, you've got a heart condition and you need electrical, we use cardioversion. And so you have to have electrical stimulation to stop and start the heart again. And I had a patient that I was able to guide him into his heart, ask his heart himself what he needed. And he was able to change the rhythm of his heart in that moment. So for people like this, even with respect to pain management, a lot of the time medications are prescribed to patients and they don't know what they're taking. They don't know what they're being offered. Being able to sit down with people, explain what it is, and ask them, are you looking to mask the pain? Are you looking to make the pain go away? I have a pain medication that you can take. And, if you're looking to explore a little deeper, I can also sit with you for a moment and guide you a little bit deeper into what this pain is asking for and what it has to say. And, there are some people who are open and interested in this. And so to be able to use the amount of patients that I see in a day, sometimes there's 50 or 60, as opportunities to read their energies, feel into where they're at and what they're open to, and then get the feedback from them directly and do a little bit of this work with them is like, I couldn't be more grateful.
Incredible. Yeah. And it reminds me of like, we see that there needs to be a new way of doing things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Sickcare system that's out there isn't truly serving everybody. We know that. But who are we to be the ones that say, oh, this is what you should be doing, or like this is the right way or this is the wrong way. Everything that I've learned about finding your power is you've got to choose it. It has to be a choice. So allowing people to, make that choice for themselves is amazing, giving them that option. Hey, yeah, I can give you the easy pill right here if this is what you want to do. I'm not here to say you can't do that, but I am here to maybe go, yeah, do you know there's another way? Do you know that there could be other stuff going on here? Are you ready and willing to look at that? Or do you just want the easy road out? And I don't know if you get this far, and do you know what this is the problem I see as well, is like, do you know, it's okay if you want to consciously choose, okay, I want to take the easy way out, but do you know what that will actually do to you in the long term? Are you fully aware, and are you in a full education of the choices that you're making? And this is the part for me that gets very infuriating with the system that we have, is that it's not a fair, obviously educated system on what it is that we're being encouraged or manipulated or brainwashed to choose. We don't know. There is different ways. We don't know what it means to just make this choice, take the pill, or whatever it is. like we're not given that true education. And I know that's probably what like lights a fire in you to try and help people to see beyond that. But at the end of the day, like, you know, people can go only as far as they're willing to go themselves, and they can only see what they're ready to kind of receive and see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and another beautiful thing that you brought up too is there's a reason why we're still in this place, right? There's still a reason why you haven't fully exited out of this, right? And I think this is like Danny can relate to, I can relate to. While you're in there, you know, what seeds are you planting? You know, how are you making a difference, even if it's in one person's life, right? That one moment of let me take you deeper, or a conversation, or something that just leaves you like feeling deeper in general. Like that's light work in a place where there is so much darkness.
100%. And I've also kind of learned along the way that sometimes there isn't a reason. And the reason is, well, it's just not time yet for me or whoever to fully go off on this new path that, oh, well, you know, it's not ready yet. The pizza's still in the oven. It's still cooking. So don't pull it out early, and just, you know, keep cleaning the kitchen and keep, you know, setting the table and doing what you need to do to get ready. Because when it's ready, pull it out and, you know, enjoy the pizza.
He uses this analogy because he works at a pizza place.
I've always used this analogy
Oh, okay.
before we started working there. Thank you. Pizza has always been a big part of my life. But, you know, there is times that I found that, you know, there is a deeper reason that, oh yeah, I have to meet this person, or I know going back to work at that place, like there was lessons that I had to learn, and there was things that I had to look at, and parts of me which I'd kind of left, kind of stones unturned, and I had to go back and, you know, address those parts of me. But sometimes, and I feel like maybe I'm at this place right now, like I'm very happy at my job, and I don't feel like there's anything more to be gained. It's just, oh, it's just not time yet to allow that whole world to completely collapse, because it's not ready to collapse yet. And all you have to do is be that second way of oneness, be the way of patience, keep showing up responsibly. I still need money to, you know, pay for this reality, so just keep showing up.
But that is a reason. Like,
Right.
there's always a reason, even in the there isn't a reason is a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always stuff to gain and learn and elevate from if you take the moment to really see and be present with it.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I would say that, you know, up until last year, even though I was self-aware and I was able to witness some of my programs, I was still showing up in response, in powerlessness, in the energies that I was within. So I could be a certain way when I wasn't in the hospital. And yet, because of my powerlessness, when I'd get to the hospital in a 12-hour day, whether it was within the first 2 hours or I was able to hold my level of consciousness for most of the day, at some point, something would have triggered me, pulled me out of balance, and then I would have been falling into the same vibrational frequency as everybody else. And this caused me to want to avoid, get out of there. I needed to leave the system so badly. And of course, that was why I was still there. And now I feel that I am showing up as an anchor of the light, and I can feel the energy that is created when I'm at work. And I can feel it in the response of my patients. I can feel it in the way that we work together as a team, as the hospital staff. I can feel that there has been a shift, and I no longer need to get out of it because I have just been able to come into this spaciousness of being able to be here in this way. And simultaneously, I know that I'm closer than ever to my exit to the system because I'm so surrendered to my presence here. And that feels pretty cool.
And to the best of your ability, if you were to completely revamp the system, knowing the system inside and out, what would that look like for you?
That's a good question. I feel that there's just a lot of unfortunately, our medical schools, the way that our system is functioning at the core, right? The way that they are created has just been from such a patriarchal, manipulative, horrible way. And as such, all of these people the majority of people who have gotten into healthcare have gotten into it because they have a divine calling to help other people. And so I think that we would have to completely dismantle the medical education because it is based on pharmaceuticals and it is based on keeping people not fully functioning because then they wouldn't be paying into the system. And so I do think that that's one of the number one things is we would have to be educating. I did all of this 9 years of university in healthcare, and none of what I know now was taught in school, right? We weren't taught how the medical systems came to be. We weren't taught why pharmaceuticals are at the forefront of every single thing that we do. And I can see that a lot of people still truly don't even understand or question why we do what we do. And then the other piece of that question that you asked, Danny, is our medical system has no understanding of the true root cause level healing. They don't understand in any way, shape, or form how to heal on a root cause level. And so I think that being able to integrate what we have from Western medicine combined with all the other beautiful healthcare modalities that exist out there that have really amazing aspects of health and healing could then be able to create a holistic approach so that people can choose what works for them and what aligns with them based on their level of consciousness and where their beliefs are at that time. If you think this thing is going to help you, great, let's try that. If you think this other thing is going to help you, great, let's try that too. And as we align with people's beliefs with the practices that they get, then like the placebo effect is such a thing, right? We give people some of these drugs and they don't necessarily work, but the mental perception that they're working can actually really help them. The studies have shown that the placebo or even the nocebo is such a huge effect. When a doctor says to someone, oh my God, you've got cancer, you've got 3 months to live, that person very often completely aligns their energetic self to that information that they've been given. And that cancer diagnosis might have been a complete misdiagnosis, and that doctor was wrong. And yet that person completely chose to take on what that individual told them and make it their reality, and they die at 3 months on the dot. Right? So there's so many pieces here that I would shift for sure. Hard to even articulate them all.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear, especially when it comes to something like cancer, that we have no real idea about what's going on, at least in the way that the Western science model looks at it. Like it's very clear. Otherwise, it wouldn't still be, such an issue in the way that it is. And you wouldn't have to nearly kill yourself with chemotherapy in order to get better. The fact that that's the kind of like the cure that we've come up with is like, oh, we just radiate your body so much so that it, starts to repair itself. Like, that's brutal. Seems like a very brutal way to allow for healing.
Yeah, and I'll give a really quick example. I had someone in my family recently who had to go to the emergency room because she wasn't feeling well, and they ended up looking into her gallbladder, and it had all these gallstones in it, and it was like black and all these things, and then they removed the gallbladder, right? And when I was talking to her, she was like, yeah, I just, I can't eat these certain foods and da-da-da. And I Googled, what is the spiritual meaning of gallbladder? And it was like, well, when you hang on to resentment and anger and hate, and this person, that's all she does is hang on to that. But there's no conversation about that. There's no, here are the emotional things that you've held on to for so long that's causing this physical ailment, right? There's nothing like that. So now she's just living her life. Well, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. Instead of, no, let's go into what you're hanging on to and let's start to heal that. And it's like the idea that is such an integral part of why people get sick, and there's nothing on that.
Mhm.
That is in that okay, Rachel said this thing recently where she was like, we should be in like appalled, like horrified at what patriarchy has done to all of us. Like we should like destroying everything because of what patriarchy has done to us. And the fact that most people are so not aware of any of the stuff that we should know. I mean, I ask this myself every day, like, what is this place? And how have we gone so long this way? It's insane. It's insane. And so, Rachel was giving another teaching of like, you can't go into a broken system and try to fix it and make it what you think that you want it to be. Like the new earth is called the new earth for a reason, which means everything is going to be built new, which means every system that's corrupt has to dismantle in order for us to create a new system. And so in the new earth, the healthcare system is going to be, it's going to blow everything we've ever known out of the water. And it's going to be beautiful because now beings are not going to suffer in the way that they've suffered for so long, because now they're going to know, well, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, what are all the factors here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, with having a background in this work and then having the opportunity to work with so many patients on a day-to-day basis, to be able to meet them in the triage room and hear their complaints. So we're literally typing out their little blurb of complaints. And for me to be able to energetically feel what their issues are, and then have them go through the emergency department, get diagnostic testing, get lab results, get an x-ray, see what their diagnosis is. You can literally put the pieces together so quickly, like the constipation with holding on, the type A personalities and the heart conditions. And, there's so many things that just make so much sense when you start seeing it. And it's really been so powerful in my learning, as a mystical coach of oneness and as a nurse, to be able to understand the whole depth of healing on all these different levels. Yeah.
Yeah, and we are still going to need, obviously, the emergency room and trauma, hospitals and things like that in the future. It's not like that stuff is bad or will go away. Like someone gets into a car accident, we need to have, some of the things that are in place right now. But there is just so much room for improvement and integration with, as Ellie said, like more of like the emotional, spiritual, mental side of things. And moving away from just looking for a pill to fix me. It's brutal.
Or the guidance from the experts, right?
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
something that I see a lot, and it is in our culture, our medical systems. A lot of the programs that the doctors run are, of course, superiority, inequality, separation, and they have a lot of ego with the way our patriarchal society have conditioned these people, right? And so they come into their patient rooms and they tell the patients their perspective. And truthfully, there's a lot of resistance to patients who are empowered. And I can say this from experience with my own personal healthcare, as well as, a partner having had late stage cancer and advocating for him through the system. And then most recently, my mom with her car crash and advocating through that system. And you're not taken too well when you're empowered and knowledgeable in this system. And that's one of the big problems, is anybody who has their own personal opinion is met with separation and resistance. And a lot of the time you're labeled a problem patient. And that needs to go. We need to be able to advocate for ourselves and share what we believe is going to work for us, because at its core, the client, the patient, it's their healthcare. And even though the experts have a education and a perspective, we should still be aligning ourselves with what the patient believes that they need, and as well as giving the opinions. But I've seen way too many times doctors pushing what they believe onto the patients. And it goes way deeper than that, because unfortunately certain drugs, you push certain drugs and you get kickbacks at the end of the year. And like, it's a pretty broken system for sure, when the reason we're prescribing drugs to people is, number one, because we get more money at the end of the year, versus this is what this patient actually needs.
Right. And like there's corruption everywhere in the world. But to bring that into the healthcare system when you're playing with like another person's livelihood, their own
Insane.
life, like
Mhm.
there is obviously a hard line there that needs to be drawn, and talk about, lacking the way of integrity, and where we need that so much is obviously in our healthcare. And the fact that there is people out there that are taking, bribes or whatever, working through these insurance companies and these pharmaceutical companies in order to make more money off other people's like health. Yeah, it's brutal.
Mhm. I mean, I feel naive because I was surprised that this was the state of our system, when ultimately you look around, you see all the other states of the system. We're seeing now, especially with social media and globalization, we can see what's actually happening, on a deeper level, with the California wildfires, with 9/11, with COVID, right? It's quite obvious for the people who are willing to see what's actually going on a deeper level. And now it's kind of like a little bit of a like giggle, like, oh, how naive was I to think that this system was anything different than what had created it in the first place, right? That's the way it is. That is the way it is across all these broken systems. And, even just being able to witness that, accept that that is the way it is, and then be able to show up the best I can within the broken system, has just totally changed my experience. And I'm still working on it, certainly.
Yeah, you're doing great. That's why we're here, right? So many of us, so that we have to go through the experience of seeing it, being in it, and then knowing that that's not what we want to keep creating in this world. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thanks
Mhm.
for this topic. It's a wonderful one, and gives us so much insight. Especially, no pun intended, you are on the front lines of seeing this system at play, and I look forward to really seeing what this is going to look like in New Earth, because it's going to
Mm.
be beautiful, beautiful, and the way of integrity and everything and every other way. To anyone out there, we are officially starting school January 21st, which is so exciting. And if you listen to this and you're like, hey, I want to join, we will be starting summer semester in May 6th. So you can definitely join then. We'll be offering incredible classes. And I know that Christie is also working on a class called Unmasking the Sickcare System. So you'll be able to take that in the future if you are interested. Thank you so much again, Christie, and to everyone at home. Please subscribe, share, comment. It helps us to keep doing this podcast for free. Until next time, we'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.